Hey, what is going on guys? Danny here, hope you've all been doing well. In this video, I wanted to talk to you guys about Nvidia's recently announced RTX Super Graphics cards, discuss what kind of impacts they'll have on the market, and give my thoughts on them. It was only just over a month ago where people were anxiously waiting for AMD's upcoming graphics cards based on their new Navi architecture that's built on this whole new RDNA platform, which is supposed to be different from GCN. Now, I'll be upfront with you guys, my whole focus in the PC hardware market has been on the Ryzen 3000 series processors as they are truly looking like an exciting product, and Zen 2 is a great leap over Zen 1. However, in my opinion, the GPU market has been the total opposite, with really nothing exciting to look forward to due to the lack of competition, and overpriced GPUs which weren't even that big of an improvement over the previous generation. I've expressed in the past how I felt about my outlook on the GPU market, and I've just been so disinterested from it. However, AMD's Navi-based graphics cards did revitalize some of my hope for the GPU market, but I still decided it would be best to reserve any sort of judgment or excitement until the cards were actually announced. At E3 2019 on June 10th, AMD had finally unveiled the Radeon RX 5700 XT and RX 5700. There was also a RX 5700 XT 50th Anniversary Edition announced as well, which was basically the 5700 XT just overclocked. The actual performance they showed off was pretty competitive. The RX 5700 appeared to be slightly faster than an RTX 2060, and the RX 5700 XT was trading blows with the RTX 2070, if not was beating it. If one was looking at AMD's own benchmarks, of course. However, the cards were met with displeasure and disappointment once they unveiled the prices. A lot of people, myself included, were expecting AMD to undercut Nvidia significantly in the GPU market, similarly to how they had done it to Intel in the CPU market. But at $449 and $379 for the 5700 XT and 5700 respectively, these cards weren't really as exciting as many had hoped they would be, and this was one of the reasons why I just didn't bother covering the release at the time, because it just looks like the Radeon Technologies group have no intention of competing with Nvidia, which in the end affects gamers negatively. And on top of all of that, AMD decided to use blower-designed coolers for their graphics cards, which doesn't really make any sense at all. Why would you not go for an open-air cooler design that would benefit 99% of users in the market anyways? But this was just overall pretty disappointing to see because people were expecting competition to finally return to the market, to have a product on the market that would give Nvidia a good run for its money, at least in the mid-range, but unfortunately that was absent. Now, moving away from AMD and Radeon graphics cards, there were many rumors circulating around that Nvidia would be responding to their competitor by bringing out these new super branded graphics cards by July 2nd, and on the morning of that date, there was an embargo lifted where many tech press outlets had posted reviews of the all-new RTX 2060 Super and the RTX 2070 Super. The RTX 2080 Super was also announced in the lineup as well, however, that won't be released until the 23rd of July. But let's start off by taking a look at the 2070 Super. Nvidia have released this card at the $500 price point, where the previous RTX 2070 was. When compared to the older RTX 2070, there are some noteworthy changes here. It's got a higher base and boost clock, an increase of 14 and 9% respectively. And the new RTX 2070 Super is based on the bigger TU104 chip, whereas the regular 2070 was based on the TU106 chip, which was traditionally a change as previously all X70 class graphics cards were based on a cut-down X80 class GPU. With that said, this allows the RTX 2070 Super to have 11% more CUDA cores at 2560, and of course, being a bigger chip with higher clock speeds and performance, the TDP will have a higher rating at 215 watts over the 175 watts of the 2070. Looking at the RTX 2060 Super, and we can see similar changes, although that GPU will still remain on the TU106 chip. The 2060 Super will also have a higher base clock, 1470 MHz compared to the 2060's 1365 MHz base clock. Now the boost clock was slightly lower for the RTX 2060 Super, which was a little bit weird, at 1650 MHz compared to the 1680 MHz boost clock of the original 2060. But the small little difference in frequencies will not make a difference at all. It's only when you really overclock the card by 400 or 500 MHz where you actually start to see a difference in performance. What's also nice is that the amount of onboard VRAM has been bumped up from 6GB to 8GB of the new fast GDDR6 memory. Moving on to some of the benchmarks, and what I'll say is that the new RTX 2070 Super and 2060 Super offer a decent performance bump over the non-Super series cards. Reviews are all over the internet, so you guys can check them out from wherever you go. Obviously, I don't have the hardware, so I'll be using results from others as well. I like Computer Base and Tech PowerUp as they show an overall performance summary relative to other GPUs, but whichever site you went to or video you watched, the bottom line was that the RTX 2070 Super offers 1080 Ti-like performance, while the RTX 2060 Super beats the GTX 1080 and RX Vega 64, and also comes very close to the original RTX 2070, the non-Super version. The performance that we're seeing here is excellent, and this does make Turing look a lot more appealing than it was before. If you ask me, I really like the RTX 2070 Super, as it's a card that's finally bringing that 1080 Ti performance to a considerably lower price point. Not to mention though, it makes AMD's Radeon 7 look like absolutely trash value when comparing them in terms of just gaming scenarios. And in my opinion, both of these cards, the 2070 Super and 2060 Super, are what the RTX 2070 and 2060 should have been originally. And I'm sure the RTX 2080 Super will also follow suit. But one of the biggest gripes everyone had with Turing and the RTX 20 series near launch was that the prices for all the SKUs were bumped up, but the performance increases weren't there to justify it. If you look at the previous generation of Nvidia graphics cards, the GTX 1070 when it was released matched, if not was beating, the GTX 980 Ti. The Maxwell GTX 970 matched or ended up beating the GTX 780 Ti. These were Nvidia's flagship GPUs being beaten by Nvidia's mid-range graphics cards in the following generation. These cards were looked at pleasantly as they brought previous flagship performance to lower price points. It made it so that the masses could attain that performance since it was a lot more affordable. The RTX 2070 non-Super did not do this. It was at best 10 to 15% faster than the GTX 1080, but wasn't anywhere near the GTX 1080 Ti. All the while, the price Nvidia was asking for it didn't justify it at all. The same could be said for the RTX 2060 Super and the original 2060. Compared to what the 1060 brought, the 2060 was pretty underwhelming. The GTX 1060 6GB model matched, if not had beaten, Nvidia's GTX 980. That was another high-end graphics card from the previous generation. The performance was now offered at a much affordable $270 price point. The RTX 2060 was at best matching the 1070 Ti, so it wasn't really following that same performance trend. But now with the 2060 Super, you're getting a graphics card that not only beats the GTX 1080, but is also trailing right behind the original 2070 at a lower price point. If Nvidia had offered these graphics cards to begin with, then I think that the series as a whole and Turing wouldn't have been looked at so negatively as they did. Nvidia did even admit that the graphics cards weren't really selling as well as their previous generation Pascal cards did. Which makes total sense, the price to performance just wasn't there. And with all the early issues regarding defects, that scared a lot of people away. This time around, it looks like they are aiming for redemption and realize that, you know what, we can't just bump up the prices like that and also not have the performance to go along with it. What's good is that the new Super cards will be slotting at the older price points. The 2070 Super and 2060 Super will be $499 and $399 respectively, while the 2070, 2060, and everything else below that will be getting a price cut. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that these prices are great, and this makes the cards totally worth getting. Even at these prices, and with the performance increases, the cards are not anywhere near where they should be for mid-range chips. Historically, the X60 class GPUs have always been around the mid-$200 price point, while the X70 class cards should be around the mid-$300 price point. As the majority of the PC gaming market consists of users who are looking to buy graphics cards around the $200 mark anyways. A direct slide from AMD 3 years ago actually stated just that. But going back to AMD, it looks like they have responded to Nvidia's Super lineup before the release of their graphics cards by reducing prices on the RX 5700 lineup. The price drop news comes directly from AMD themselves, and it looks like for all three cards in the lineup, they've been dropped $50. That puts the cards in a much better spot than they were before. We'll have to wait until the 7th of July until we see what the cards can actually do and what kind of performance they offer compared to Nvidia Super cards, but at least it's nice to know that some kind of competition is returning to the market. The prices, of course, still aren't anywhere near where I would like to see them, but I like to look at this as the step in the right direction. And who knows, maybe we'll see Nvidia respond back and get baited into a pricing war with AMD. At the end of the day, it's the consumers who are the winners. Well, that's all I wanted to talk about in this video. There's definitely a lot of releases to look forward to in the computer hardware market, and this makes for some exciting times. If you guys enjoyed the video, then hit that like button. Leave your comments down below. Check out the video description for my other videos and ways to support the channel. If you're interested in seeing more content like this, then make sure you're subscribed. Thanks for watching, take care, and I'll see you in the next one.